Welcome. Hey, everybody. It's Jason Clemmons, Doctor of Chiropractic at the Rock Health and Wellness Center. And this is Life with Jason Clemmons, DC, on this beautiful Wednesday, December the 18th, coming to you right here from Lubbock, Texas at the Rock Health and Wellness Center studios and on the radio at 98.7 Walk by Faith, 1420 AM, Lubbock Christian Nation. Hope you guys had a great day. Hope all our social media people out there on Facebook, X, and YouTube are doing great. Thanks for watching the show. Thanks for the great comments that I've had this week. One lady said, thank you for doing that show and for taking care of me. And I was like, you're welcome. Thanks for listening to the show. I hope it's making a difference in your life. And that's what we're going to get into tonight. We're just going to keep going. It's been busy this week at the Rock. We've been rocking. It's a lot of fun. If you're not a chiropractic patient, you ought to look into it because if you're listening to this show, you have a nervous system. And if you have a nervous system, you ought to have someone checking on it every now and then, making sure that it's doing good. And if you really want to rock life and you really want to reach a high level of function, make sure that dude's checked at a regular basis. So add it to your lifestyle, add it to what you do. You exercise, you eat right, you get adjusted. Just watch out what happens. Had a conversation today with one of my girls, my ladies, and talking about joining a new doctor's office here in town. And she said, yeah, well, maybe the goal of that doctor's office is that you don't ever have to go see them. And I'm like, yeah, that's exactly right. Because if you're well, I've heard that one of my sentences today was, have you had a lot of that sinus trouble that's going around in the office? And I said, yep, sure have. I've been dealing with it, been working on sinuses, been adjusting sinuses and all this head cold stuff that's going around. I was like, yep, I've been seeing that a lot too. Not everybody's watching our show. I feel like we're all you guys that are loyal listeners to the show that you find a time in your life to listen to the show. I feel like we're like a club. Maybe after the first of the year or something, we can get some T-shirts made up, and you guys can buy a T-shirt that's for cost. I won't even make any money, or I'll donate the money to the T-shirts to some health and wellness function or something like that. We could see if we could donate it to the kids or something like that. But I feel like you guys ought to have a shirt because you're getting tired of this too. You got to be getting tired of this conversation that we have together, and then I bring in all these conversations during the week during the day that I hear and bring them in, and you're like, really? Someone asked you that again? Like, what, do they not watch your show or what? And I'm like, I'm pretty sure they don't. I'm pretty sure they don't, but you all do. So it's great. Before we start, this is just kind of funny. I think it's just kind of a little bit of humor before we get started today. You go along in life, and I mentioned it to a couple of patients this morning, and it really wasn't that big a deal to them, but it's kind of funny to me, so I'm going to share it with you anyway. And it's sentences that people say that I just am not buying anymore. I'm like, no, I ain't buying that. And one of them is, this won't matter to a lot of people, but if you watch any football on TV and the quarterback throws the ball deep, somebody will say something like, hey, that was a 50-50 ball, right? I played quarterback for 16 years or something. I started when I was in first grade, and I finished when I was in college, 5 years of college. And then there was one season when I was in fifth grade, I didn't play football. So sixth grade. So I played football from first grade, 5 years of college. I think that's 16 years of quarterback right there. I never threw a 50-50 ball in my life. That's the dumbest thing I've ever heard. No upstanding quarterback worth his salt would ever throw a 50-50 ball, unless it was in two circumstances that I can think of. Number one, it's fourth down. You're behind, and you have to try to make a first down, and you're just about to get sacked. You might as well just throw it and see what happens, right? Okay, that might be a case. If you're like the dude is grabbing you and pulling you down, and you just have to get rid of the ball. Okay, fine. That maybe. And then the last one is if it's the last play of the game and it's a Hail Mary and you're just throwing it up and seeing if your guys can catch it. Those are the only two circumstances that a 50-50 ball is a thing. I think that's ridiculous. I drop back, hit my plant foot, step up in the pocket, and I throw the ball to my receiver. It's not a 50-50 ball. It's a 100% ball to my guy. Now, it might get intercepted, but it's not because I intended for it to be 50-50. That is so stupid if you if you ask me. So that's the first sentence. Well, this morning I was getting ready, and Leslie says, I said, "What's the temperature outside?" And she said, "Well, it's 34, but it says it feels like 20." And I got in the shower and I was just shaking my head and I was thinking to myself, what difference does it make? What do I care what temperature it is if it feels like it's 20? To me, I'm going with 20. Like, how else would I mean, you guys are nervous system people by now, right? Like, what difference does it make if they say, and I get it, it's wind chill, right? It's like, if you're in the wind, it's going to be colder. But I don't care. It's like, that's where I'm going to be. And if I'm in West Texas, I'm going to be in the wind. So I want to know what it's going what it's going to feel like to me. That's the only thing I care about. It's 34 degrees, but it feels like 20. Shut up. I'll just go with the 20. I mean, how do you know what 34 feels like anyway, unless you feel it? So sensory input for me, I'm going with the 20. So that's just another sentence. I think that the weather people can they don't need to tell me that anymore. They don't need to tell me it's 34 and it feels like 20. Just tell me, hey, it feels like 20 out there. That's cold. That's cold enough to get a jacket. So anyway, just a little humor. Just a little humor for this Wednesday before we get deep into this stuff that we're going to get into. But I thought it was funny personally. Sometimes you just got to laugh, and there's just things that show up in your life that just make you laugh, and that was one of the things that made me laugh. I'm not. Listen. We got bowl games tonight. We had West Virginia get whipped by Memphis last night, and we got another bowl game tonight. You listen. If you watch any football, they'll say something about a 50-50 ball. And when they do that, you just think in your head, that's not a thing. Somebody made that up. Like somebody just made it up that's the way you ought to do. And that happens a lot with health and wellness. Somebody just makes stuff up. And it's like, no, I don't think so. But anyway, I want to keep going with what we've been doing and get into conversations. This is a week of conversations. And conversations that we had, and I had a really, really good question brought to me today. A really deep, good question, and that's what the show is going to be about. And it has to do with back pain and what we would do about it. But as I was getting on tonight, I checked my Dan Murphy stuff, and lo and behold, Dan has a new article that is published December 2024, American Journal of Prenatology. Prenatology. I don't even know what that means, but we're talking about kids. Omega-3, and I know you guys. Don't run away when I start talking about omega-3s again. I just remember what we talked about night before last, and we said, or maybe it was last night, and we talked about. We said, look. We've been learning this. I've been learning this stuff since 2009, and I don't have time to wait for the research to catch up to what the things that we already know, right? Because I don't want you to be sick. I don't want you to be sick until the research catches up and says all of a sudden it's there, right? And then we opened up the my text, and what do we have? We opened up the text, and we had this article that was talking about new UCLA research, omega-3 rich diet could be key to slowing cancer progression. Right? Look, how many of you have dealt with cancer? How many of you have someone in your family that's died from cancer? How many of you have had a cancer diagnosis? Do you know the moment that happens in your life, you will search for anything on earth to win that battle. You will listen to the doctors. You will search for the solution. That when that cancer thing shows up in your family, you're going to want to know, how do I clean up everything? How do I clean up my diet? How do I clean up my exercise? How do I clean up my dish soap? What do I do with my any sort of toxins? What do I do with cancer? Right? And so this is an article coming out from UCLA that talks about omega-3 rich diet could be the key to slowing cancer progression. If you guys ever want to, you can send me a text. I'll post it for you. I'll share it with you if you want to. If you want me to send you these articles, the articles that we get sent to us. This is from SciTech Daily, new UCLA research. So that came out, and we talked about that on the show. Well, tonight, as I was coming on the show, all of a sudden, I checked my Dan Murphy stuff, and he had an article about prenatal. Let me see where it's at. There it is, right there. He had an article that was talking about omega-3 levels in prenatal supplements. And this is from a group of people: Eastern Virginia Medical School at Old Dominion University, Virginia, Queen's University, Canada, University of Toronto, Canada. The objective of the study was aimed to systematically document the reported omega-3 levels in commercially available prenatal supplements in the United States and Canada, and compare these levels to recommended intakes in pregnancy. And here it says the key points: 90 to 95% of pregnant and lactating women in North America consume inadequate amounts of omega-3 fatty acids, including DHA and EPA, right? The things we talk about constantly on this show, it's so important. It's so important. Your fish oil, your EPA, and your DHA, right? That's what they're talking about. This article says 90 to 95% of pregnant and lactating women are low in this, in their EPA and DHA, and we know you guys know that because we've gone over it so many times, right? But I thought it was pretty cool. This says a Cochrane review of 26 randomized controlled trials demonstrated that supplemental intake of omega-3 fatty acids of about 1,000 milligrams of EPA, which is half as much as what we would take, plus DHA they're saying 1,000 milligrams of EPA and DHA, which is 1/3 amount of what we would take, can significantly decrease risk of preterm birth. Now, it doesn't give me any information in the article where they got that number, where they came up with that number. But it says this is important because worldwide rates of preterm birth are increasing, with more than 1 in 10 babies born before 37 weeks. Now, what does that mean? Like, what does it mean that 1 in 10 babies are born before 37 weeks? What it means to me is that the ladies having babies, their bodies are not functioning at the level that they should be functioning at when they're pregnant. It's like we're not able to do, our bodies are not able to do the things that our bodies are supposed to be able to do. And the question is why? And the answer is because we're not healthy. And the reason we're not healthy is because we've been taught the wrong things about health, and we're looking at it the wrong way. And so I know you guys aren't, because I know you guys are taking your fish oil, right? But this is a new guidelines recommend that all women of childbearing age should consume 250 milligrams per deciliter of DHA and EPA. They're getting close, right? New guidelines recommend that all women of childbearing age should get 250 milligrams of fish oil, or for 12 times that, like 3,000 milligrams of fish oil. When intakes are sufficient at baseline, an additional 100 to 200 milligrams a day of DHA should be consumed during pregnancy. Why? Why should we increase DHA during pregnancy? Because DHA helps build brain synapses. And your brain, from the mother's standpoint, the mother is going to donate her DHA to the growing baby to let the baby develop brain synapses. And when the mother donates her DHA to the baby, the mother loses her DHA and her brain doesn't work as well. And there's a big component of your postpartum depression. That's a big component of that your DHA got low. So they're saying right here that all women of childbearing age should get 250 milligrams. And then when intakes are sufficient at baseline, an additional 100 to 200 milligrams of DHA should be consumed during pregnancy. Pregnant women with low omega-3 intakes should consume 600 to 1,000 milligrams of DHA beginning no later than 20 weeks of gestation. Then you say, is it okay for me to take fish oil when I'm pregnant? Think about that. Think about that sentence. Is it okay for me to take fish oil while I'm pregnant? Another way of asking that question would be, is it okay for me to eat fish while I'm pregnant? Is it okay for me to do healthy things while I'm pregnant? Absolutely, it's okay. Taking your fish oil when you're pregnant, when you're not pregnant, if you're a man, if you're a woman, if you're young, if you're old, if you're an athlete, if you're not an athlete, it's just part of the nutrition that needs to be in the body. Pregnant women with low omega-3, we said that. While dietary sources provide some omega-3s, only certain varieties of fish, salmon, mackerel, herring, sardines, and anchovies, contain EPA and DHA. Many pregnant women avoid fish because of current concerns with methylmercury, which is a concern. Yes, that's why it's important to have wild fish, wild caught fish when you eat it, but you got to watch out with that too. So prenatal supplements are an important alternative source of omega-3 fatty acids for pregnant women. This comes from Eastern Virginia Medical School at Old Dominion University, Virginia, Queen's University, Canada, University of Toronto, Canada. Okay? So, only 55% of prenatal supplements contain omega-3s, varying doses. That's important. You're not going to get them from your omega. People tell me that all the time. They say, well, I think they're in my prenatal vitamins. Well, I think it's in my multivitamin. No, absolutely not. No, fish oil is not in. It's like my mom one time, I love her to death, but she tried to tell me that they were putting a Starbucks in, what did she say? 31 flavors or something in Athens. And I was like, no, Mom, they're not putting the Starbucks in 31 flavors. And I don't care anything about EPA in prenatal vitamins. I want you to take your fish oil, get it from the source, get it and make sure you're getting it. Don't get it added somewhere in there. Okay. So I thought that was cool. So then you get down to the bottom of the article, and then Dan, he says, well, in 2011, the magazine Time published this article. So he shows us Health and Science, Time magazine, August 15th, 2011. Remember I told you I've been learning this since 2009? Yeah, baby's first pill, fish oil in pregnancy helps infant health. For good or ill, everything mothers do during pregnancy affects their health and their babies. This includes taking daily supplements. According to a new study in 2011, they found that children born to mothers who take fish oil pills while pregnant may benefit from an early boost in immunity. Researchers randomly assigned about 1,000 pregnant women to take daily supplements of DHA, a major omega-3 fatty acid, versus a placebo. The baby's health was evaluated when they were 1 month, 3 months, and 6 months old. At every stage, babies whose mothers took fish oil pills were healthier than those whose mothers didn't. At 1 month, they were 24% less likely to have cold symptoms such as coughing, nasal congestion, and runny noses. At 3 months, they were 14% less likely to be sick. And if you don't feed them any milk or any formula, they're even more likely not to be sick. And if you don't feed your kids Cokes, they're even more likely not to be sick. Like, there's all kinds of stuff, right? How does prenatal fish oil affect a baby's ability to fight off sniffles? A developing fetus's immune system relies on cues from its environment, in this case, the womb, to start building the cellular defense system that recognizes and kills bacteria and viruses. Although the mechanism is unclear, the DHA seems to give the fetus a head start. Now, let's break that down for a second, because that's a deep paragraph right there. How does prenatal fish oil affect the baby's ability to fight off sniffles? A developing fetus's immune system relies on cues from its environment. So does yours. So does mine. So does everybody's immune system relies on cues from its environment. In this case, the womb, to start building the cellular defense system that recognizes and kills bacteria and viruses. So do mine. Why is it I'm not dealing with the sniffles that all my patients, that I have multiple patients dealing with? What's the difference? One lady told me today, well, I'm sorry, I hope I'm not contagious. I'm like, what does that mean? What does being contagious mean? That you're going to give me something, or what? Maybe it's my inability to block what you're trying to share with me. Maybe contagious is my problem, not your problem. See, that is a major point that is not taught anywhere in our society other than in a wellness world, and probably in a chiropractic wellness world, right? Being contagious is not your problem. It's my problem. Because if my immune system is not functioning properly, then now I can't handle this bacteria and virus load that you might bring into my world, and I might get sick. And then what am I going to do? I'm going to blame it on you. I'm not going to blame it on myself. I'm not going to blame it on myself and say, maybe I should have gotten my system better. Why is it that I'm going through personally, me seeing these patients all day long, working on these sinuses all day long, adjusting patients, and I'm within a foot of their face all day long? Why is it that I'm not sick all the time? Maybe it has nothing to do with that person and 100% to do with me. And that's exactly what this article is saying, that the fetus's immune system relies on cues from its environment. So does mine. And then it says, although the mechanism is unclear, DHA seems to give the fetus a head start. Why does it give the fetus a head start? Because DHA helps the brain function better. You knew I was going to come around to that brain thing, right? The better your brain is functioning, the better your immune system is functioning. Who taught you that? Where? Why? Why not only who taught you that, because no one taught you that unless you're listening to your mama, who's really natural. I got an 86-year-old lady that just started with me this week. She takes one prescription blood pressure pill. That's the only thing she takes. She's 86 years old. And she's like, we've always been natural. And I was like, who was we? She said, my mom. My mom was she was all about being natural. I was raised with chiropractors. And she's like, I said, what'd you have for breakfast? She's 86 years old. So what'd you have for breakfast? She said, well, I kind of try to stay natural. She's cute as heck. And she said, I had a few strips of steak with some eggs. And I said, is that all you had? And she was like, well, no, I actually had a couple pieces of fruit. I had some of those little oranges. And I said, what else? She's like, yeah. And I said, what else do you usually eat? So, well, I really like to eat walnuts. And, I snack on chia seeds, which is omega-3 and omega-3, right? It's like, this lady's 86 years old. She's on one medication. Now, my dad, when he passed away at 80, had a whole bucket full of medication that was sitting there that he was taking. My patients that come in that are over 65, a lot of them that come into the office have to bring their paper with them. They have a paper of pharmaceuticals in their purse, or they're in their wallet, and they say, well, there's too many of these to go through. So here's my list. And we have to make a list. We have to go make a copy of the list of all the medications that these people are taking. And you guys know it because that's part of the world we're living in today, right? But not everybody's living in that world. And because you might actually give your body a head start, right? You can give your body a head start just like these people can here in this one. The babies can. In this study, expectant mothers got 400 milligrams of DHA daily, starting at 18 to 22 weeks, and with significantly more than 200 milligrams than the average American woman consumes in a day. DHA is critically important for the formation of synapses in the brain of the fetus, newborns, and children. As such, children will benefit from a supplemental omega-3 formula. Yes, that's high in DHA. A serving size of 20 drops, and that's what this, and I'm not going to get into that part because that's, but, okay. Then Dan references, and this is the article that from 2015. Then Dan references 3 different articles. An article in 2007, an article he posted in 2009, and an article he posted in 2010. Dietary omega-3 fatty acids for women, dietary omega-3 fatty acids in the developing brain, omega-3 fatty acid supplementation during pregnancy. It's all those are, one of those is 2000, one of those is 2008, 2008, and 2007 that those articles were published, right? Dan's ahead of the game when it comes to this stuff, and it's super important. And we can't get away from it because it just keeps, now they're catching up a little bit. Now they're giving us an article. This article came out December 2024, just came out. And we just saw another article that was in the UCLA that just came out recently as well. So let's take a break. We'll be right back. We're going to come back and we're going to talk about what would you do if your back hurt? That was one of the questions. What would you do if it was your back that was hurting? And I want to get into that on the other side of the break because I thought that was a great question. So you guys stick around with us. We'll be right back. This is Life with Jason Clemmons, DC. All right, let me clear some of these out of here. Got all those articles. They just keep coming out. Like, I think it's cool because it reinforces what we know, right? It gives, I think it gives you some confidence to say, hey, like, I already know that. And it comes out and you're like, well, of course I know that. So it kind of it backs it up, and it's cool for me because I've been seeing these same articles for 15 years. I didn't know it. I didn't know it before that. I knew you're supposed to take your fish oil back from school, but I didn't really understand why. And no one really not till I got to Dan, and not till he came along and really showed me. I had a conversation today. One of my girls is dealing with polycystic ovaries, and I said, that's diet and fish oil related, right? And she was like, oh wow, now how do I fix that problem? And I was like, yeah, you gotta clean up your diet. We don't think about, a lot of people don't think about that. They don't think about polycystic ovaries being a diet problem. But we got a doctor here in town that takes care of a bunch of ladies that has dealt with that. And it's so funny. I had one of my patients fire me one day because she was telling me she had polycystic ovary disease and that it was genetic. And I said, well, my understanding is that it comes, and she was a bigger girl. And I said, my understanding is that it comes from diet and you need to take your fish oil. And she got so mad at me because I said that she fired me. And then a little bit later, I see her doing advertisements for this medical doctor in town that does nutritional things and it helps you clean up your diet and get rid of your polycystic ovary disease. And then she ended up having a baby and her life was better. And I'm fat. I don't care. Like it doesn't matter to me if you get the information from me or if you get the information from your medical doctor or if you get the information from your dentist. It doesn't matter. What matters is you get the information and then it changes your life and it makes your life better. That's the part that I think is important. So let me get us back online. Okay, everybody, we're back. This is Life with Jason Clemmons, DC, and we broke down some more fish oil stuff because you haven't had enough of it in your life. Then now I want to get into what I thought was a great question. It was a serious question, and it came from the wife of the patient. And they're both patients, but the wife of the patient asked me the question because she's concerned about her husband, and her husband's dealing with some back pain stuff, and it flares up on him, and she just wanted to know, what would you do? What would you do if it was your back that was hurting? What would you do to solve that problem? And I was like, well, I would eat right and exercise. And that's a tough answer. And it's like, why? What? And then the next question she asked was, do you really think eating right makes that big of a difference? Yeah. Okay. You guys know, and you're probably laughing at home too. Not laughing at her, just laughing because okay, here we go again, right? Go back to last night's show. Go back to blood supply inside of the nerve, right? Go back and watch last night's show and think about blood supply in the nerve. And if you get the idea that you've got blood supply to the nerve, then you'll also get the idea of you might be able to make the connection, what's in the blood. And then how does your blood get what determines what's in your blood? And then would that have anything to do with the way that the nerve functions, right? I don't want to get back into that because you guys watched the show last night and you learned about that and you saw the picture. And if you guys are on the radio, maybe you went to the Walk by Faith Facebook page or our Facebook page, either one, and looked at it and said, oh, I see what the picture he was talking about. Or you could just do a cross section of the anatomy of a nerve and look it up, and it'll show up right there. And you can see what that nerve looks like, right? So, yes, 100%. There's so much research on what we eat and how we function, right? And this is what we kind of got into a little bit last night, the role of resolvins in inflammatory and neuropathic pain. So, what are the three types of pain? The nociceptive pain, the inflammatory pain, the neuropathic pain. We've got three different types of pain that are happening right there. And if we're having low back pain, then we have to understand the mechanics of the low back. And we have to understand flexion and extension of the low back. In this particular case, we've got a flexion problem and an extension problem at the same time because we've got a previous back surgery, and that's not good. And so we've got a cervical curve problem. So we've got a cervical curve problem. We've got a previous year back surgery issue, and now we have a disc problem involved as well. So whenever you get facet jamming in the back, whenever you have a facet jamming problem, you can't go into too much extension. See if I can find a picture of this. This one's kind of simple. And so it's like too much facet. These are the facets. Okay? This in the back here is the facet. Here's the disc. And you've got the bone and the disc, and the back side is the facet. Here's the front, here's the back. Okay? And if you guys listen to me on the radio, all you got to do is put your hands in the small of your back. And what you're doing is you're touching your facets. That's back. Well, actually, you're touching your shirt, which is touching your skin, which is touching your fat, which is touching your muscle, which is touching your fascia, which is then touching your facets, right? Remember, that's what we talked about, pinching a nerve. But the very back part of the back is where the facets are. If you go forward from there, you'll see that's where the disc is. So whenever you're in extension past neutral, whenever you go into extension, like you lean back too much, what will happen is you will get jamming on the backside of the facet. And that jamming is going to create irritation, and that red hot jammed facet joint is going to hurt. And it's going to feel better to lean forward and go into flexion to open up the facet joint. When you go into flexion, you're going to open up the facet joint, you're going to take the pressure off of the facet, and you're going to make the facet calm down. The problem is, when you go forward, you start to press on the disc and push the disc backward. You can kind of see in this picture right here how it's the way that when you have when you have a curve, it's the back edge of the curve is a little bit, the back of the vertebra is smaller than the front of the vertebra, not the disc, not the vertebra, the disc. The back of the disc is smaller than the front. So it's like squeezing, I always use the Little Debbie snack cake and the oatmeal cookies. Because everybody knows the oatmeal cookie thing, right? It's like, yes, if you had oatmeal cookies, you had two of those oatmeal cookies and you had that cream filling in the middle. Just imagine what would happen if you were to smash the back of it. Where would the disc go? The disc would go forward. Where would the cream filling go? The cream filling would go forward. What would happen if you smashed the front of it? You take your two cookies and smash the front of it. Where's the cream filling going to go? It's going to go out the sides and the back, right? That's what's going on with the disc. So we've got two different pain distributions in this particular case. We've got pain that's running down the back of our glutes into the top of our hamstrings in the back. Kind of a sciatic type issue, okay? Then we've got pain running across the front of the thigh. Now that's, in my world, in my understanding, that's two separate problems right there. When you get a disc involved, especially when you get a nerve root involved, the L3 nerve root to be specific, you're going to get that pain coming across the front of your thigh. When you get posterior facets jamming, you're going to get pain that's going to run down the back. Now, you can have a disc involved. I'm not saying that. But most of the time, to differentiate between the two in the office, if the pain distribution is coming down the back side of the leg, then we're probably in too much extension. If the pain distribution is coming around the front of the thigh or going down below the knee in the front or going down the outside of the calf on the outside, then we've probably got the disc involved, which means we're probably in too much flexion. So now it becomes important to know, how do I get to neutral? How do I get to neutral and not get into too much flexion? Well, we were sitting there, and when I went to start to adjust his wife, he sat down in the chair, and we were just having a conversation about what to do, and it was a pretty serious conversation and all that sort of thing. And then I noticed when he was sitting in the chair, his hips were pushed forward. Now, if you guys ever sit down and you sit down in a chair, just first thing, the best way to try it is to push your butt as far back in the chair as you possibly can. Push your hips all the way back. I mean, like up against the back of the chair. And most chairs will have some sort of lumbar support. So when you push your hips all the way back, you'll put yourself into extension. You're going backward a little bit. And that's going to, if you have a disc bulge problem, that's going to start to help out. But then if you take your hips, if you move your butt forward in the chair, slouch a little bit, move your hips forward 3 or 4 inches, and now what are you doing? You're putting yourself into flexion. And when you put yourself into flexion, you start squeezing like that caulk in that caulking gun, or like toothpaste in a roll of toothpaste. If you've used a little toothpaste and you're one of those people that rolls the bottom of the toothpaste up, and you start to roll that toothpaste up, you're pushing that toothpaste up towards the top. Well, when you go into flexion, you start pushing on the front of the vertebra, and you start pushing the nucleus backward out the backside. And we've done shows on that, and we've talked about those two mechanisms of things. So what am I going to do if the guy tells me, if he asks me, okay, sometimes I got pain running right down my glute into my hamstring, but sometimes I have pain that runs right across my thigh. Well, that's a little bit more complicated because that's both facet jamming-ish stuff and disc-ish stuff all at the same time. So now we got to get to neutral, or we got to do some decompression on that disc, and we've got to get the resolvins, we've got to get the inflammation and the nociception and the neuropathic pain to stop. So it's a combination of all of it. And so the question I asked was, I said, don't you guys take fish oil? Yes. But see, here's the deal. And I can't, I know that it seems like sometimes this is a fish oil show. This is a fish oil show, but it's not. It's not a fish oil show, but I don't know. I gotta do a better job. I've got to throw it and get it caught. I got to do a better job of helping people understand there's a difference in all of the fish oil. So what I did is I've got their fish oil that they sent to me. And I've got the pictures of the fish oil. So the first one I looked at, it says 2 soft gels. I said, well, first question was, do you take your fish oil? And he said, well, when I remember to do it. And I'm like, okay. Then the question was, okay, what do you got? And two soft gels will get you 650 milligrams of EPA. Now, how many milligrams of EPA are we trying to get in our world? I should give prizes for you guys to, like, when you write, if you call in or something. Like back in the day when we were kids, they used to give like records or something. You could call in and win the prize, and you could win a record, win a Bon Jovi record or something like that. Leslie used to do it all the time because she used to listen to the radio all the time. All right, 2 soft gels gives us 650 milligrams of EPA. EPA is anti-inflammatory. So what is our baseline? Our baseline is EPA over DHA in a 2-to-1 ratio, and we want 1,000 milligrams of DHA, so we want 2,000 milligrams of EPA. That's what we want in our office as a baseline for no problems whatsoever. If there's no problems whatsoever, that's what we want. So he's got 2 soft gels that's going to give him 650 milligrams of EPA. And what does that mean? Well, so what I do is I take 2,000 milligrams is what I want, and I divide it by 650 milligrams, and that means that you got to take 3 doses of it. You got to have times 3 doses to get 2,000 milligrams just to get back to baseline, which means you have to take 6 of these soft gels a day just to get to baseline. Now, if you're going to increase from baseline because you've got some sort of pain issue and we're trying to drop our inflammatory process, then I would double that. So I would say do that twice. Now you got to take 12 of those pills. So they said, well, we got different ones, so let's look at the other fish oil that we got. All right, so this one is 2 soft gels. This was the second option. 2 soft gels equaled 270 milligrams. 270 milligrams of EPA and 660 DHA. And I would say that's for kids. I would give the kids that one because why? Because it's high in DHA. Because 270, now I got to take, to get to baseline of 2,000 divided by 270, I got to have seven doses of this. And there's 2 pills in a dose, so now I have to take 14 pills just to get to baseline, and I would double that because I'm trying to get rid of inflammation. So now this is 28 soft gels a day. You see the difference? You see the difference between what you think you're taking in fish oil and what you're actually doing. And then you say to me, people will say to me, I tried that fish oil, it doesn't work. And I'm like, did you try 28 pills a day? Because they're like, 28 pills a day? Are you crazy? No, I'm talking about the quantity. It's like trying to fill your gas tank up, and you fill your gas tank up with 2 gallons, and then you decide you're going to drive to Dallas. And you're like, well, I tried gas, and it just doesn't work. Like, I put gas in my car, and I can't even get to Idalou. It's like, it doesn't work, right? And that's the thing about, it's why, that's what we do. That's what we do. And I love these people. They're great people, right? I'm not being critical of them. I'm saying that's what we do is we say, well, sometimes when I remember, I take my fish oil. And I'm like, no. Sometimes when you remember, what does that mean? Like when you remember to be healthy. No, that's not an option in wellness. It's not an option in wellness. Sometimes when I remember is not an option. It's, yes, I'm going to do wellness things to be well. And I need to make sure that I'm doing wellness things to be well. And that's hard for people to hear, and I understand, and it sounds like I'm arrogant, and I'm not, and you guys know that by now. I'm not that way. I'm simply saying that you can't run the play that way. You can't line up and run the play any way you want to run the play and expect to have a successful play. It doesn't work that way. There's laws that govern function on the earth. And one of them is you got to get your inflammation down. And how do you get your inflammation down? Well, number one, you can't eat any corn chips, because if you eat any corn chips, you got to add more than 28 pills. Do 3 times the amount. Now go to 42 pills. Get 42 pills per day if you're going to eat chips and salsa. And it's like, what? Yes, because what are you going to do with the 6s? The 6s from the corn is going to make your inflammation go up even higher. So now you've got to get it higher. So I get this deal a lot. I get people tell me, well, I take fish oil. Well, what kind of fish oil? And how much do you take? And then they don't know. And then it's like, no. So she said, well, how many of those pills do you have? Well, what is the pill ratio of what I've got? Not mine like I made these pills. I don't care anything about this company other than the fact that I look on the back of it and say, how much EPA am I getting? And if they're lying, they should get burned in hell. But that's vengeance is not mine, right? Vengeance is the Lord. The Lord will take care of them. I'm just going off what's on the bottle. And I've talked to people in the business, and they feel pretty confident with this. Okay, this two soft gels right here, 2 soft gels of this fish oil gives you 1,360 EPA and 670 DHA. And the way that I figure that up is, okay, I say, all right, 2 pills gives me 1,360. So 1 pill is, divide that, and that's whatever that is, 13, 12, 160, 680. Right? So 1 pill is going to give me 680 milligrams. So divide 2,000 by 680 and you're going to get 3. Now I could take three of these pills to get 2,000 milligrams, or if I double that, I got to take 6 of these pills to get my 4,000 milligrams. I got to go up from there. So you tell me which one you want to take. Do you want to take 6 of this type of pill? Do you want to take 12 of this type of pill? Or do you want to take 28 of this type of fish oil? And it's everybody, and what do people say is that oh, I take fish oil. Not the same. It's not the same. Does that make sense? I hope it does. I hope it makes sense right there. That if we're going to get the inflammation down, not the nociceptive pain necessarily, and not the neuropathic pain, yes, as well. That's one component of the 2 components of pain that we have to get down. And this article is from Pharmaceuticals in October of 2023, and inflammatory pain alerts the body to an inflammation and promotes healing. However, unresolved inflammation can lead to chronic pain. Neuropathic pain due to somatosensory damage can be a disease in itself. Inflammation plays a considerable role in the progression of both types of pain. Yes, because the inflammation is in the blood, and the blood is in the nerve bundle, and the nerve is inflamed. Right? So when we look at it and we say, yes, what's in there? And that's what's in there is inflammation, right? Chronic inflammation may occur in cases of unresolved inflammation resulting in chronic pain. So we've got mechanical stress from flexion extension issues. We've got degeneration at multiple levels. We've got gigantic bone spurs in the neck, and we've got this issue of inflammation in the body. And so it's like, what would you do if it was you? I would eat right and I would exercise. And what exercises would I do? I sent them the McGill Big 3. I sent them the video. I gave them the video of the McGill Big 3. Let me see if I can find it right quick. Dr. Stu McGill is the world's renowned low back pain specialist. The McGill Big 3. All you got to do is search it. And then the McGill Big 3 for core stability. It's all over. You can go to YouTube, how to do it correctly. Like there's the squat, the plank, the side plank, the crunch, and the bird dog. See if I could share these 3 pictures with you right here. And this is just straight off the internet. I just Googled it while we were sitting right here. Right? Okay, this is the McGill Big 3. There's the bird dog where you're on your hands and knees. You put one arm forward, and then you put the other arm forward, not at the same time. And then you put one leg back, and then you put the other leg back, and then now you mix the left hand and the right leg back, but you got to keep your core tight, right? Then you would do a crunch. You lay on your back. You put your hands in the small of your back, put one leg straight, you bend one leg, and you're going to raise your head and shoulders up, straight up towards the ceiling. You're not going to do a full crunch. You're just going to raise your head and shoulders straight up towards the ceiling, and that's going to create that contraction in your low back. And then you would do a side plank, and you can do it on your knees, or you can get it all the way down to your feet, and you're going to hold yourself in a side plank position both ways. Now, if any of this stuff creates pain, don't do that. That's the McGill Big 3. So I would watch a video. Go to YouTube, look for the McGill Big 3, and look at and break it down, and it will tell you that's core stability, right? It's core stability to hold together what's going on in your core. And I'm not telling anybody, I'm not treating you, if you're listening to my show, I'm not treating you for this. I'm sharing the information with you. It's an educational show. I'm not doing that. So, because I can't get in trouble for that. So I'm not. So make sure that you know that I'm not. And then prone head raises. I don't know. Yeah, this is images. Yeah, there's this one's probably as good as any of them right here, but I would probably pick your head up. Let me see. If I was doing that with a home, lay on your stomach and you pick your head up and look at the wall that's in front of you, and that's where you're working on a little bit of head raise. Now, don't go too far because then you'll jam that facet. But I would use this picture right here, and I would say if he would get his head up and look straight in front of him, then he's activating those lumbar paraspinal muscles, and he's stabilizing that, and he's getting himself into a little bit of extension, which is going to push the disc forward. There's progression of how you'd want to do that, but that's how I would. Those are the things that we would do. Those are just some of the starting points that we would do. Maybe we're out of time for tonight, but maybe we would carry this on till tomorrow, and just kind of talk about some of the other issues or things that we could do to stop this. But that's what I would do. It's like, and then I told him, I said, well, if all else fails, you can also do NSAIDs. Because if you're not going to do the wellness thing, then do the medical thing. That's the way that you should go. But if you want to do the wellness thing, then really get after it and learn how to do the wellness thing. So, hey, that's all I got for you tonight. I hope you guys enjoyed that. You guys have a great night. We'll talk to you tomorrow night.